Today we have chosen to go into our game as Mighty Moira, and Moira is going to help us get towards victory. So here's some things that we know about Moira. First and foremost, let's talk about Moira's abilities. Moira's biotic abilities enable her to contribute healing or damage in any crisis, while Biotic Grasp gives Moira short-range options. Her biotic orbs contribute longer-range, hands-off damage and healing. She can also fade to escape groups or remain close to allies in need of support. Now, Moira is a strong hero for both healing and DPS. Moira can do damage when it's time to do damage and do heals when she needs to do heals. She can single-handedly change the outcome of a game, whether that is throwing her orb out, doing heals, doing damage, or using her ult to do both at the same time. We know that Moira can get this done. So let's talk about some facts about Moira that we know. Some weird facts. So first and foremost, Moira likes Irish coffee. So with the Winter Wonderland event that popped up with a new skin, an Irish coffee is mixed with whiskey and topped with cream. And that's what it looks like. That victory pose drink is an Irish coffee. She runs like Naruto. So if you actually look at the way that she runs, she puts her arms behind her when she does her phase and moves in that direction. She's a high-ranking Talon agent, which is going to be pretty cool. And she was first seen in Doomfist comic. This one I thought was really interesting. She has heterochromia iridium, which is basically two different colors of eyes, and the only one to be featured in Overwatch that has this. And as far as my knowledge, the only game that I've seen that features this in the game itself. So that's pretty cool to see. And she was part of the mission that exposed Blackwatch, which is kind of cool as well. So how does Moira go for the win? Well, first and foremost, Moira likes to have her 4 best friends with her, and she could change these out at any time depending on how the game goes, but she pairs very well with some of the other heroes. Now, on the support side, we found that she's a good pairing for both, I would say, Kiriko, and then the number 1 is Lucio. If you've got a Lucio on the team with your Moira, there's a good shot you're going to be doing a very good amount of heals for your team, playing that team game and being able to contribute that DPS so that way you can steamroll some of the other teams. Now, Kiriko seems to be a good option with this as well because Kiriko can get in and out pretty frequently and get some and hit some of those flanks. And if they're playing Kiriko with the DPS, they can really focus the DPS folks and let Moira focus on the tank. And this tends to be a really good option as well. Now, from a DPS perspective, if the other team is just out DPSing your team, Moira can step up and really show her strength with that right click and that DPS, both from an orb standpoint for long range and her biotic damage from a close range standpoint. And that's going to do a lot. And that could single-handedly switch the way a game is played based off of what the other team is doing and how you're using your Moira to best take advantage of what that team. Now, for tanks, Moira can pair with almost all the tanks as long as they're a little bit more stationary. So we'll go through them. Not a good pairing for Winston, as Winston can move in and out pretty frequently, and that can throw Moira off and leave her exposed. Wrecking Ball, another one going in and out and leaving Moira exposed. Really hard to pair with that. Roadhog, on the other hand, is probably one that's 50-50. Roadhog is pretty mobile with that hook, and if you're a pretty decent Moira, you can stay with Roadhog as long as you're using your phases in the right dimensions. Now, here's the ones that Moira pairs really well with. So obviously, Reinhardt has the shield. Great protection for Moira. The only time he's really moving is when he goes for his big push slam, and this really gives it a nice feature for Moiras to stand behind and not get smoked by the DPS. Zarya is another one because Zarya is not super fast moving. Moira can definitely do some heals, a little bit more skill to stay in and out of the range of DPS, but works really well. Sigma with the shield does good for Moiras as well because Moiras can get a little bit closer to the shield, deal both damage throughout, and turn around and deal health for their team. So I love playing with Sigmas. And then Diva's almost the same thing, has a good little strong base that you can sit behind and not get picked off for the most part. And then Orisa is another one that you can really have fun playing with as a Moira. So all in all, almost all the tanks pair well with Moira, with the exception of Winston and Wrecking Ball, who just tend to be in and out quite a bit. And then another one I didn't hit but is not a good pairing is Doomfist. And this again is because Doomfist does travel a lot throughout the map, which leaves your Moira exposed. But again, Moira wants to be a good teammate for anybody. Now, here's some of the cons and here's some of the downfalls as a player of Moira. We know that we love her, and we love her for a DPS perspective. We know she can do a lot of heals, and a lot of heals she will do in any game. But it is very easy to get hungry when you're with Moira. You start seeing some of those squishies that go down and they're one shot, or maybe they're under 50 HPs and you hit them and you get that first kill. Then you get that second kill. Then next thing you know, you're in the middle of the entire team, not realizing that you came out of your support role to go into a full DPS role. And now you've gotten yourself into trouble, and you've got one last option and one last thing, and that is your phase to get out of it. But you didn't realize that you actually phased yourself in because you were so hungry for a moment that you actually went to go for that 5-piece kill, not realizing that your team is just not there with you because you let them down on the healing side. So now, what does that look like? That looks like that you've played like a solo Moira and you got tunnel vision and you decided to go for that specific DPS high kill game, going for the 30, the 40, and the 50 elims as a support character just to feel good for a little bit because of all the heat you've been taking from those DPS players in your previous games. But it never ends well because you end up being a solo player instead of playing for the team. And oh yes, every now and again, you might get that 5-piece. You might be able to hit your ult, and you might even get the play of the game. But oftentimes, it does come at the detriment of your team, and it does come at the detriment of your heals. So that is the one downfall with Moira, the mighty Moira, is that you can get very hungry when you're playing her, and you can get very hungry towards those elims, and you can get very hungry towards those DPS, and it is a heck of a lot of fun. But I promise you, if you want to be a good teammate, try to focus on the left click, the heals, because that is what she's built for. She's got the long range orb that you can throw. And that close range, even if you're running out of heals, you can still make a huge impact. And that is why I like to play Moira. And that is how we get the win with Moira. And yes, mistakes are going to be made, and you can see it in my gameplay here. But we did have a lot of fun. And as you can see on the screen, we did get our dub. So that, my friends, is a story of Moira. All right, so everybody that's been here this long, if you've made it through the video, make sure you hit that subscribe down below. Share out the video if you liked it, and definitely hit that like. My name is Soul Betty, and until next time, I'm over and out.